Good afternoon, class. This is your History and Civics class, and in today's class, we'll continue with the explanation of the chapter, the Gupta Empire. I think I have already posted all the exercises of the chapter, and now only question answers are left. So, after completing the explanation, I'll send the question answers to you. Now, we'll begin with the religion. We had already completed the trade and all. Now, with the religion. The Gupta kings were Vaishnavas, but they were tolerant towards religions. The Gupta kings were Vaishnavas, but they were tolerant towards all the religions. Brahmanism had come to the forefront. The two gods who commanded the worship of the majority were Vishnu and Shiva. The two gods who commanded, which means who were worshipped the most, were Vishnu and Shiva. Religious sacrifices like the Ashwamedha or the horse sacrifice were performed. What was the religious sacrifice performed? It was Ashwamedha or the horse sacrifice. The Hinduism became the most powerful religion, and the Gupta rulers gave donations for building of temples. Buddhism no longer received the royal patronage, though it continued to be the second most important religion. Buddhism, in the previous chapters till the modern empire, Buddhism was very much uh, had the majority, or there were very many Buddhism people in the town. But in the Gupta age, Hinduism became more prevalent, and it became the most powerful religion in the Gupta rulers' time. And Buddhism was no longer at the royal patronage, and it continued to be the second most important religion. Now, the art and architecture. Art and architecture gained great heights during this period. Many temples were built. The are very famous. The Bhitargaon are very famous. The temples at Devgarh, Sanchi, and Bhitargaon are very famous. In which places the temples are famous? Devgarh, Sanchi, and Bhitargaon. The temples were very simple, with only one room with the idols of God were kept. This place was called the Garbhagira. Garbhagira was a place which was in where the idols of only one god were kept. They were constructed with bricks and stones. Idol worship in temple became a most common feature in Hinduism from the Gupta period. The 29 cave temples at Ajanta near Aurangabad in Maharashtra and Bagh in Madhya Pradesh were also built during this period. The wall of these caves were covered with paintings called murals or frescoes. Frescoes, Frescoes. They depict themes from the life of Buddha and ordinary scenes from day to day life. Numerous Buddhist monasteries were also built. The two main centers of art were Mathura and Sarnath. What were the two main centers of art? Mathura and Sarnath. A number of images of Buddha, Vishnu, and Shiva have been discovered in these two places. The image of seated Buddha in a yogic pose is one of the masterpieces of art in this period. This is the masterpiece of art in this period. This is the image which is shown here, in which Buddha is in the sitting pose. The statue of the standing Buddha and Mathura is also very impressive. The Gandhar and Mathura schools of art developed during this period. Now, about the literature. The Gupta period is also called the golden age of Sanskrit literature. Which language became prevalent in this period? Sanskrit. The Gupta kings were themselves great scholars. Their courts had talented scholars and artists. Chandragupta too is credited with maintaining Navratan, or nine luminaries at his court. Kalidas and Aramsimha adorned his court. Kalidas was the greatest and most famous poet of this period. He wrote, what did Kalidas write? He wrote Abhijanna Shakuntalam, Raghuvansham, Meghdut, and Kumar Sambhav. Shudraka and Vishak Datta were other famous playwrights. Aram Sima wrote Amrakosa, a Sanskrit dictionary. Amrakosa is a Sanskrit dictionary. To this period belongs the 13 written by Bhasa. Panini and Patanjali were great grammarians. Panini and Patanjali were great grammarians. Panchatantra, a collection of stories by Pandit Vishnu Sharma that teach moral lessons, also belonged to the Gupta period. Harisena was another great poet. It is presumed that Ramayana, Purans, and Mahabharata were finally compiled during the Gupta period. Ashtadhyayi, the greatest work of Sanskrit grammar, was written by Panini during this period. Now, the education. India made great progress in the field of education during this period. Centers of high learning developed along with many pathshalas and temple schools. Nalanda, Takshila, Ujjain, Sarnath, and Ajanta were the centers of high learning. Nalanda University, founded by Kumar Gupta, was a famous center of education. Thousands of students from India and abroad would study mathematics, mathematics, medicines, religion, astronomy, philosophy at Nalanda University. It had a huge library. Hyun Sang had been a student of the Nalanda University. Hyun Sang had been one of the students of the Nalanda University. Now, about the science. Scientists, mathematicians, astronomers, and physicians flourished in the court of the Gupta Empire, Gupta rules. Two well known mathematicians and astronomers of this period were Aryabhat and Brahmira. Aryabhat said that the earth moves round the sun and at the same time it moves on its own axis. We all know you have already studied geography, and in geography you have studied that sun moves on its own axis. Sorry, the earth moves on its own axis and it also moves at the same time, it also takes the rotation of the sun. The books authored by Aryabhat are Aryabhatiya and Suryashi Dhanta. Varamira wrote Brihat Samhita, an encyclopedia on astronomy. The study of the numeral system was also very advanced during this period. What is known as Arabic numerals were actually first used by the Indians. Indian mathematicians knew the use of zero. What did the Indian mathematicians know? They knew the use of zero. The concept of zero as well as of using it with another number was formulated by Aryabhat. The Arabs adopted the system and hence it was called the Indo-Arabic system. The Indians also used the decimal system. Now, the medicines. Many hospitals were constructed during the Gupta period. Many books on medicine were written. Dhanvantri and Vagbhat are great physicians of the Gupta period. The Ayurvedic system developed during this time. Metallurgy. The study of metals had also progressed. The finest example of the iron pillar at Mehrauli in Delhi. The pillar has not rusted and still shines. Gold coins, which were issued in large numbers, were also very beautifully designed. What were in the Gupta time? The metals or the use of metal, it was also progressed. Finest example of pillar is in Mehrauli in Delhi. Okay, the pillar, which is made of metals, it is not yet rusted and it still shines. The gold coins, which were issued in large number, were also very beautifully designed. Now, the decline of the Gupta. Why did Gupta period got declined? Few causes were responsible for the decline of the Gupta Empire. What were the causes? Weak rulers. There were not very strong rulers in the Gupta period. Poor defense of the frontiers, which means the defensive army which stood in the front line, it was not very strong, or it was very poor actually. Decline of foreign trade. In Gupta period, they just used to trade among their own country, and the declined the foreign trade. The Han invasion, rise of feudatories, governors became independent, and growing of practice of land grants. These were the main reason why the Gupta period got declined. The ancient Indian culture reached its peak under the Guptas. The Gupta period is called the golden age of ancient India. Guptas issued the largest number of gold coins. Ancient India experienced many achievements during this period. It was a period of peace and prosperity. There was a remarkable progress in the field of literature, art, and science. Although there was a remarkable progress in the field of literature, art, and science, and this period had a lot of peace and prosperity, but still, due to some of these uh, causes, this Gupta period got declined. Okay, class? So, with this, we come to an end of the explanation of the chapter. We have completed the reading and the explanation of this chapter. I'll be posting the question answers in your WhatsApp group, and I'll also post the explanation video. First part is also already uploaded, and I have posted it on the group also. So, children, just go through the video and try to understand the topic. And if you find any difficulty in the chapter, you can feel free to ask me, and I'll be sharing the question answers of the chapter today itself. And that's all for the class. Thank you, class.